YouTube was facing its biggest crisis in its history. From what looked like a dominant position of power, the giant that companies like Facebook, Amazon and Apple only dream about competing with nowadays was about to shut down and never become the most popular video sharing platform in the world that you now know of. In fact, what if I told you that this story of innovation and collaboration is the very reason you can watch this video right now? Buckle up and get ready to dive into this captivating story behind perhaps one of the most influential business deals of all times and find out how it shaped the world we all live in today. Stay with me until the end and I'll also share with you what Mr. Beast had to tell me about this topic. YouTube was in a pretty rough spot. They were dealing with tons of copyright infringement claims from media companies and content owners. In fact, it was so bad that they were just days away from potentially shutting down and facing hundreds of millions in lawsuits. This was 2006 and YouTube was on its knees. Yet by the turn of the century, it had not only survived, it became one of the most successful companies in history. Isn't it crazy that YouTube is now over 37% of all mobile internet traffic? Just imagine life without it. And all of this was about to collapse. YouTube struggled to keep up and needed money to expand. Google saw the opportunity and only a year and a half after it launched, one day, this happened.
Hi YouTube, this is Chad and Steve. We're the co-founders of the site and we just want to say thank you. Today we have some exciting news for you. We've been acquired by Google.
It's amazing to think how quickly it became so successful that they sold it for what at the time probably seemed like an enormous sum. $1.65 billion, significantly higher than YouTube's book value at the time. Was $1.65 billion a fair price at the time? Allocating such a substantial portion of the purchase to goodwill and intangible assets? And has it proven to be a fair price in hindsight? Was that the right time for YouTube to sell? We'll explore all those and more, but first, let's hear what one of their founders said about it.
Yeah, I think so. We literally didn't really have any other options. And I feel there's a pretty good chance that YouTube might not even be here today if it wasn't for Google support, let alone at this size. We just needed a lot of resources. We only had 67 people within the company. We had only raised a few $1 million. I mean, and we could have raised a lot more, but in terms of what we were dealing with, being so threatening to almost every industry, you have the traditional internet guys who were seeing our growth as something as threatening. Then you also had traditional media guys that were basically threatening us with lawsuits based on of copyright concerns, even though we were doing the right things and continued to do the right things. They were more or less, I think, afraid of losing control, because for the first time what YouTube represented was, what the internet always represented was worldwide distribution, but what YouTube had was a meaningful global audience, which had never been aggregated in that way before. So for us, we didn't really have any other chance or choice but to be acquired by a bigger company that would provide us the resources and also the protection to continue to grow, to not see this opportunity disappear for millions of users around the world.
Today, a deep dive video into one of the most amazing acquisition stories of all times, and the people that helped to make it happen. To do justice to such an epic story, we have to rewind the clock back a few years and listen to this.
It reminds me of Steve Jobs in a garage somewhere with... It is that you two went to a dinner party and there were people there with a camcorder and they were all talking about how they could see other people's video and had no means to do that. Is that right? Is that a correct story?
Correct. Imagine this. It's October 28th, 1979. A guy by the name of Jad Karim was born in East Germany to a Bangladeshi dad and German mom. Fast forward to 1992, his family moved to Minnesota and he eventually attended the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Before graduating, he left to join PayPal, where he met Chad Hurley and Steve Chen in 2002. Meet Chad Hurley from Pennsylvania, born in 1977. He's got an artsy side of him, with bachelor degree in fine arts from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, focusing on graphic design. Before YouTube, he was part of the PayPal team at eBay, where he even designed the original PayPal logo. Pretty cool, eh? As for Steve Chen, he was born in 1978 in Taiwan and moved to the United States when he was just a kid. He's a tech-savvy guy, with a degree in computer science from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Like Chad, he also worked at PayPal, where they all met and became friends. So a few years after joining PayPal, in 2005 to be exact, they created YouTube. It's a true sliding door moment in history. If the YouTube founders never met, who knows where we'd be today. It's crazy how one chance encounter can change everything. And it's a good reminder that we all have those pivotal moments in our lives that can completely change our path. So Karim made the first channel and uploaded the first video ever on YouTube, Me at the Zoo, on April 23rd, 2005. And guess what? That video now feel like we need to dig into their Akashic records or something to find that video that has been viewed since over 260 million times as of April 2023. Believe it or not, by the end of 2005, YouTube was already hosting over 2 million new videos per day and had more than 20 million daily active users. How is this even possible? How can one company blow up that fast? It's truly amazing how quickly the platform grew in popularity and became a daily part of our lives. Because by the summer of 2006, the company had reached 100 million video views per day and 65,000 new video uploads per day. By August, just a couple of months before the merger with Google, YouTube began its first advertising. Now remember, YouTube had been financed to that point entirely by venture capital firms and had very little revenues and probably very high burn rate. YouTube was, however, clearly established as a favorite of the internet community in much the same way that Google was just for videos. YouTube is still a big deal, of course, and the craziest thing about them is that they can turn anyone into a star. For example, you remember this guy?
Oppan Gangnam Style.
And 1 billion YouTube users posting more than 300 hours worth of video every minute of every day keep coming back for more.
And he's not the only one. More than 1 billion YouTube users posting more than 300 hours worth of video every minute of every day keep coming back for more and announcing new stars every day. By the way, if you don't know who I am, my name is Moran Pober and I'm the founder of acquisitions.com and rollups.com. We were involved in more than 500 million worth of acquisitions and rollups just like this. And we now look to invest and help more people in the process. So in order for us to talk about this acquisition, we have to understand few simple terms so we know what we're actually talking about. Like, what is an acquisition? So acquisition or mergers and acquisitions is basically a business transaction in which the ownership of companies is then transferred to or combined with another company. There are many reasons why companies might choose to acquire other companies, including things like seeking economies of scale, diversification, greater market share, increased synergy, cost reduction, or things like new niche offerings. To give you an example, imagine you're a small business owner. Let's say you make and sell cupcakes. And let's say that you've been successful in your local area, but you're now looking to grow your business and expand your reach. So what you can do, you basically might decide to go out there and acquire another local bakery, and maybe they specialized in cookies. Then what you can do is you can offer a wider range of treats to your existing customers. By doing this, you're basically seeking diversification, right? So you're adding another product line to your business, and what you're doing with that is potentially you're increasing your overall market share by going out there and acquiring customers who previously only bought cookies from the other bakery. For Google, acquiring YouTube served many similar purposes. The thing that makes it really interesting is that before the acquisition, Google had its own video sharing platform that most people probably can't remember, right? It used to be called Google Video. But YouTube had something special about them. They had massive user base and a huge library of user-generated content. So by acquiring YouTube, Google was able to expand its product lines and their offerings. They were able to then gain access to new users and create more powerful, comprehensive video platform. Now, of course, both companies need to feel that there is a value in the combined entity, right? That will ultimately be reflected in the value of the company being acquired. Clearly, Google felt that this was the case, but it may have had less to do with the inherent value of YouTube than with the strategic value of how to beat Yahoo, their rival firm that was reportedly involved in a bidding war with Google back then for YouTube. Imagine if that was the case, right? And do me a favor right now, actually. Close your eyes for a second and imagine a world where YouTube was owned by Yahoo. It's a wild thought, right? That's the difference that acquisitions can make in our world. Now, I'll get to it later on how you can use it in your company or for your first acquisition, if it's growing your company or your portfolio allocation. Let's leave YouTube for a moment and go back to 1998 for a second to understand the full picture. So, once upon a time, in a bustling digital world of 1998, two brilliant PhD students created a game-changing search engine called Google. As their creation grew in popularity, Google held an insane 65.6% market share. So while competitors like Yahoo and Microsoft tagged behind at 16.1% and 13.1% respectively, by August 2004, Google had gone public. Google's initial public offering, their IPO, took place on August 19, 2004. The company offered a bit more than 19 million shares at the price of $85 per share. So the sale of 1.67 billion gave Google a market capitalization of more than $23 billion in their IPO. But even giants need to evolve. So Google was seeking new opportunities to stay ahead of their competitors. Remember how earlier I said that while YouTube started having their rapid growth, they faced a lot of challenges? They needed an infusion of capital to just sustain their growth and navigate tons of legal battles they had. They had issues with their third-party content. As fate would have it, Google and YouTube crossed paths in 2006, a time when Google enjoyed an impressive $10 billion in revenue and over $3.5 billion in operating cash flows. Their advertising model, thriving on high traffic volume, seemed like a perfect match for YouTube's vast user base. And yeah, that's super underselling it. Together, they formed a powerful alliance, transforming YouTube into one of Google's most profitable ventures. Remember, YouTube barely made money from advertising back then. And as a privately held company, their financial figures were under wraps. But it's safe to say they were losing quite a bit of money every month. So by combining Google's skill for turning traffic into cash with YouTube's massive audience, Google could then estimate the cash flows it could generate if it owned YouTube. This approach for the deal was very exciting, rather than just looking at YouTube as a standalone company. Now add to that the fact that Google's overall competitive position will improve by owning Google, because the traffic YouTube drove to Google and vice versa could be leveraged for revenue. Plus, the acquisition can then block a significant growth opportunity for rivals like Yahoo and Microsoft. So keeping YouTube away from Yahoo and Microsoft was super valuable for Google. And at the time, YouTube had no intrinsic value and was likely losing money. But it was such a dominant player in its field. So the key was Google's ability to make money from YouTube's traffic, which YouTube itself couldn't capitalize on. This factor alone was probably good enough reason for Google to pay such premium price back then, right? Lastly, Google understood they had little to lose. The company had plenty of cash and a high stock value, but it also knew that the internet's overall growth, combined with their strategy, meant more money and even higher stock value in the future. This foresight minimize the downside risks, so Google could easily afford to lose the entire 1.6 billion on the YouTube deal. However, the upside was enormous, as Google recognized YouTube's potential for pretty much dominance in the video space and knew that acquiring the platform could be a game changer. Combine that with the fact that in 2006, the global economy was generally stable, so with steady growth in the US economy, this stability likely had positive impact on Google's stock price and their ability to finance the acquisition of YouTube. At the same time, the economic landscape changed dramatically in the following years with the 2008 financial crisis. So it's worth noting that while the financial crisis impacted many industries and companies, Google and YouTube managed to navigate the crisis and continue to grow. The YouTube team has built an exciting and powerful media platform that complements Google's mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Those words were said by Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google back then. And he said those things to the official press release of the acquisition. Our companies share similar values. We both always put our users first and are committed to innovating and improving their experience. Together, we are natural partners to offer a compelling media entertainment service to user content owners and advertisers. But at the time of the merger, some people thought the purchase price was insane. They saw YouTube as a fleeting sensation, much like companies like Napster, because of the legal issues it faced. But Google's power and expertise allowed them to sign deals with major media companies, clearing the path for the purchase and eliminating the main form of risk. Our community has played a vital role in changing the way people consume media, creating a new clip culture. By joining forces with Google, we can benefit from its global reach and technology leadership to deliver a more comprehensive entertainment experience for our users and to create new opportunities for our partners, said Chad Hurley, CEO and co-founder of YouTube. And he said those words for the official press release of the acquisition back then. I'm confident that with this partnership, we'll have the flexibility and resources needed to pursue our goal of building the next generation platform for serving media worldwide. Now you see, most business owners know that buying a business is just step one. The bigger challenge is what happens post-merger. So what about Google and YouTube? Did they experience any post-merger problems? Not really. Critics were proven wrong, and YouTube has grown to be world's #3 website in the world, with Google at #1. There weren't any issues with corporate culture or integration, at least nothing that was advertised, and YouTube retained its own identity while introducing ads using Google platforms and continue to grow since. As far as the legal problems, all those anticipated legal problems never materialized. Thanks to Google, thanks to the deal Google made prior to the acquisition. But how did Google monetize the acquisition of YouTube? The plan from the start was to introduce Google's advertising formula to YouTube and reduce their legal liability. Google addressed the legal issues with their massive legal team and has since been able to defend itself against significant lawsuits such as the $1 billion suit filed by Viacom. Google's primary strategy was to professionalize YouTube by introducing advertising using the same tools they used for Google AdWords and AdSense. Converting eyeballs into revenue is a challenge, but if Google can't make YouTube profitable, probably nobody can. But Google killed it. Google acquired YouTube for $1.6 billion back in 2006 using 100% stock. They didn't pay any cash for this deal. Today, YouTube estimated to be worth over $180 billion, delivering Google a 110x return if YouTube was a standalone listed company. And if that was the case, it would be amongst the largest video and entertainment companies in the world. Isn't it fascinating? YouTube managed to pull in an impressive $29.24 billion in revenue in 2022. Now, if you compare that to companies like Netflix, which brought in $31.6 billion that same year, you might think they're pretty similar. But here's the catch. With Netflix, they have to put tons of money and resources into creating their own content, while YouTube gets most of its content from users like you and me. So YouTube costs are very lower, making their accomplishment even more remarkable. YouTube has two main ways of making money. Advertising sales, which is 85% of the revenue. So when you're watching videos on YouTube, you'll often see ads, right? Well, those ads are targeted specifically for users like you. YouTube then shares the ad revenue with video creators, giving them 55% and keeping 45% for themselves. In 2022, they paid approximately $19 billion to creators. Not too bad, right? The second way they make money is by subscription, 15% of their revenues. If you're tired of ads and want a smoother experience, YouTube Premium is the answer. So for around $12 a month, you can enjoy ad-free videos and even access their music service. It's pretty popular too. 50 million people are already subscribed, which is a bit more than 2% of all YouTube users. YouTube has an estimated 4% share of digital ad spend globally, and that's excluding China. YouTube has over 2 billion monthly active users, and it's the second largest social media platform in the world. Thanks to YouTube, many creators have seen their net worth skyrocket in 2021. The top 10 highest paid YouTube stars made around $300 million, with half of that coming from YouTube ad revenue. Can you believe Mr. Beast made an estimated $27 million last year just from ad earnings? That's before his other brand deals and things outside of YouTube. YouTube's profit margin is estimated to be around 38%. Putting it all together, If you look at the present value of the company's cash flow and assuming the cash flows of the company will continue to grow, then we can definitely assume valuation for YouTube of about $180 billion. This compares to the $1.6 billion purchase price Google paid for YouTube in 2006 is not too bad for them. And remember this, there's always a bigger fish. As big and impactful as YouTube is, it's only 15% or so from Google, or its official name of Alphabet, that trades at an average enterprise value of $1.4 trillion. Okay, so Moran, you took me on this crazy journey on this acquisition and whatnot. How do I make more money from it myself? So first thing I'd ask you is that you adopt the mentality that growth by acquisitions and investing in acquisitions is inevitable as a company tries to grow. Collaboration at scale is key. Google wouldn't be Google without key acquisitions like DoubleClick and YouTube. And DoubleClick, by the way, that's AdWords and AdSense that you see nowadays. And YouTube probably wouldn't be YouTube if Google didn't support them with their capital and their technology and their ecosystem and their operational and cultural integration. Second thing to remember is that holding a large percent of equity in a company is how you build long-term wealth. And your personal goals and vision will influence this percentage. When YouTube was launched in February 2005, Jod Karim didn't want to leave school. So the three partners negotiated the deal where he'd take a smaller share in the company in exchange for serving as an informal consultant. So he held a much lower stake compared to Hurley and Chen. Because of this deal, most people didn't know that Jod was a co-founder until Google bought YouTube in 2006. He made about $64 million from the deal. Not too shabby, right? But on the other hand, Chad Hurley and Steve Chen, the other co-founders, they made a bit more money. Chad got around $345 million and Steve got around $326 million. But they also became more famous. So 3x times more by being in the front and leading the company as well and working in the day-to-day. So what's your take? Would you prefer to be more anonymous, work less and make less money, but perhaps also have less headaches and more work-life balance? Or would you rather be the person who works the hardest, fight in the arena, but gets all the glory as well, if you win of course, and also earns more? Ultimately, the choice is yours to make. Another key lesson I think all of us can learn from is be cautious when selecting your business partner. They initially had 3 partners, but only 2 remained until the exit. Nowadays, none of them are with Google. Whether they were forced out or left on their own, I can't say for sure. However, this illustrates the challenges of maintaining partnerships in business. So take your time when forging these relationships. Third lesson, it's crucial to be on the lookout for chances to grow, improve your current business and defend against competitors. Google saw the value in YouTube as a platform for sharing videos and realized it would be an excellent fit for them. How can you keep an open mind and explore new possibilities, new opportunities, new acquisitions? Because you never know what deal could take your business to the next level. You know what's interesting about being a public company? It opens up a whole new world of possibilities when it comes to acquisitions. When you're private, it's tough to put a clear value on your company's stock. But once you go public, it's a whole different ball game. Your stock suddenly become an easily quantifiable currency that you can then use to go out there and buy other companies. So not only does going public gives you access to broader pool of investors and brand reputation and scrutiny, of course, and other things, of course, and whatnot when you're a public company, but it also gives you more purchasing power to grow and expand your business, which allowed Google to buy YouTube with shares only. So 0 cash out of pocket. Pretty cool, huh? Fifth lesson, change is the only constant. Google was already a titan of the digital world, but they realized that online searches are about to explode behind just text into videos. They embrace this shift. How many entrepreneurs and business owners you see rest on their laurels as soon as they make some money? With YouTube acquisition, they ensure that they'll stay at the forefront of the digital revolution by buying YouTube. It's amazing to see still nowadays Google constantly showing us the power of innovation and staying in tune with what users really want. Sixth and final lesson. Picture this. Google needed a plan for integrating YouTube into their empire. So what they did is they crafted a strategy that covered every angle from cross-promotion to enhancing the platform's technology and even standing by YouTube's side during legal battles. But let's not forget the heart and soul of any company, their people. The YouTube founders reaped massive rewards from the acquisition, true, but with their payout, mostly in Google's stock, they were basically highly motivated and incentivized to continue and help Google and YouTube, and making sure the company continued to grow even further after the acquisition. So the result from it is a super win-win situation for everyone involved. Because remember the wise words from Charlie Munger: show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. By aligning the interest of YouTube's founders with Google's founders, they unlock the process to successful acquisition that truly stood the test of time. I'll leave you with this. Google is probably one of the best companies out there when it comes to acquisitions. And you'd probably never had the option to watch this video if it wasn't for Google and their acquisitions of YouTube. I personally think it has the potential to at least 3 to 5x from here. Video is not stopping. And I don't think the same for companies like TikTok. And I'm not the only one. Here's what Mr. Beast had to say about it.
Google has Google AdWords. They've been in this ad business for like over a decade, where they've been sharing revenue with certain people, and the YouTube partner program's been around for a decade. They just have a ton of experience with doing it. And I think TikTok's gonna take quite a while to catch up on.
I personally believe YouTube will stay here for years to come. And there was zero chance of YouTube surviving as a standalone entity without the support they received from a mammoth company like Google. And most of us would probably never know YouTube ever existed without them. How do I know that? Have you ever heard about Vine?